I want to tell you about a butcher. He's been in my local market town for generations. The shop has anyway. Same street, different owners over the years, but the same kind of place. Proper food, proper knowledge, the kind of counter where the person serving you knows where the lamb came from and what to do with the less familiar cut. When COVID hit and footfall didn't just drop but disappeared entirely, this butcher didn't wait. Within days, he was on the phone to his regulars. Not a newsletter blast, not a social media post, phone calls. He took orders, arranged deliveries, eventually built a simple website, but the website was never the point. The point was that he knew who his customers were. Hi, I'm Keith Lockwood. I've spent 30 years working with retailers, from independent shops on local high streets to international fashion houses. I help independent retailers think more clearly, act more deliberately, and build shops that their customers genuinely want to come back to. Less noise, more clarity. When I think about that butcher, the thing that stays with me isn't the technology, it's the knowledge, the specific, personal, accumulated knowledge that lets him sort his customers into groups. Who would welcome a call? Who might need it explained gently? Who had been a regular for years and would miss it badly? That knowledge didn't come from a database. It came from years of paying attention behind the counter. And here's the thing about footfall dropping. COVID was extreme. I'm not suggesting most retailers will face anything like that ever again. But footfall declining gradually, quarter by quarter, for reasons that are hard to pin down, that's not unusual. And the retailers who weather it consistently are the ones who invested in depth with their existing customers long before the quiet patch arrived. Let me contrast two approaches. The butcher's approach, when trade disappeared, his contact with regulars increased. Not desperately, humanly. The message wasn't, please keep spending money with us. It was, we know who you are, we're still here, and we thought of you. The other approach, which I've seen more often, when trade gets quiet, the retailer goes quiet too. The social media posts slow down. The window doesn't get refreshed as much. The small personal touches, the note in the bag, the call to say something's come in, start to feel like an effort rather than a habit. That's exactly the wrong moment to go quiet. Your best customers are the ones most likely to notice whether you're still fully there. If they sense the energy fading, they'll quietly start going elsewhere. Not with a complaint, just gradually, as loyal customers do when a place they've loved stops feeling quite like it used to. When I work through this with retailers, I break customer relationships depth into 3 stages. The first is know. What do you actually know about your best customers? Not just what they buy, who they are, their names, their habits, their stories. The butcher knew his customers well enough to make a judgment about who to call first and how to frame it for each of them. That knowledge was the asset. Everything else was just delivery. The second is show. Knowing is only useful if you act on it. Showing means making it visible that you've noticed people. Their name when they come in, a product put aside, a recommendation written into their bag. These aren't grand gestures. They're small, consistent actions that accumulate into a feeling. And the feeling is, this shop knows me. That feeling is very difficult for a chain to replicate. It requires an actual person who actually noticed. Chains can train staff to simulate it. They can't produce the real thing. The third stage is grow. Once know and show are in place, growth tends to follow naturally. Customers who feel genuinely known come back more often, spend more, bring other people, and most valuably, tell their story. The butcher rang me during lockdown. I've never forgotten it. No advertising budget produces that. Only relationships do. Here's an exercise to try this week. I call it the Customer Depth Audit. Step 1. Name your best 20 customers. Not necessarily your highest spenders, but your best customers. The regulars, the recommenders, the ones who make the shop feel like itself. Write the names. If you're struggling to get past 5 or 6, that is itself important information. Step 2. For each person, write down 2 things you know about them that you didn't learn from a purchase. Their job, their routine, the thing they mentioned last time. If you can't write 2 things, make it your mission this month to find out. Step 3. Identify 1 action for 3 of those people this week. Not a discount, a human action, a message, a note, something put aside. Step 4. Start a simple record. A notebook with a page per regular is fine. The method doesn't matter. The habit of noticing does. Step 5, and this is the one I want you to sit with. Ask yourself the butcher's question. If footfall dropped significantly tomorrow, which of your customers would you ring? And do you know them well enough to make that? If yes, you have a resilient business. If mostly no, you have a clear priority. There's a line from the retail economist Paul Nystrom, writing in 1930, that I have written down and I keep coming back to. He wrote that customers who come back are almost never the ones who found the price lowest. They are, almost without exception, the ones who felt the shop had been glad to have them. That was written over 90 years ago, and it's still completely true. Price can bring people in, but feeling does the keeping. And of all the things that an independent retailer can build, that feeling, the genuine, specific, human warmth of a shop that actually knows you, is the one that chains cannot buy and algorithms cannot replicate. We've come through this series from the exterior of your business, the high street, your online presence, your physical environment, to something more interior now. The relationship between you and the people who choose to shop with you. That relationship is the most durable asset you have. It outlasts trend, quiet periods, and as the butcher showed, it can outlast even a global pandemic, if you've been tending it long enough. Next week, we go wider, the independent advantage in its full form. What you can do that chains structurally never can, and how to make that advantage as visible as possible to the people you're trying to reach. If you want to look at customer retention in your own business, what's bringing people back and where the gaps are, the Retail Profit Finder in the link below will help you with that. It takes about 15 minutes to go through. And Chapter 7 of The Reluctant Retailer is the full version of everything we've covered today. Loyalty, events, feedback loops, and why depth of relationship beats acquisition almost every single time. Again, the link to the book is in the description below. I've been Keith Lockwood. Thank you for your attention and speak to you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.